After the disastrous opening weekend of the box office for the Marvels, really people only had one question, because obviously it was going to lose money. It's now going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars for this studio. The question that everybody had in the aftermath was just how bad will it be? After setting the record for the lowest opening weekend box office in history, the Marvels look to be on pace for another record-breaking weekend, and not in the way that anybody involved with the film would have wanted. And sure enough, here we are. The Marvels collapses at box office with record-breaking second weekend drop that's worse than Morbius. Yes, Morbius, which is brought up all the time as a meme, something to laugh at, a joke. The worst second weekend drop in history of comic book movies before this has now been surpassed by a movie that I wish was as memeable, but unfortunately is just bad, The Marvels. The new MCU outing, The Marvels, has the worst weekend 2 drop for any comic book movie, including the notorious Morbius. This is going back in history, like 90s, 2000s, everything since before the MCU existed, all of this shit. And now it looks like The Marvels will be the first MCU title to fall short of $100 million domestic. Look at this breakdown right here. The Marvels crashes and burns, making history and beating Morbius as the biggest second weekend drop of all time for a comic book movie at the US, after grossing just $10.2 million on its second 3-day weekend. Horrific legs, dropping 78% from opening weekend for a $65 million US total. It will be the first MCU film in history not to cross $100 million, eyeing an $80 to $90 million total US wrong. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, before this, I said on FNT, I might, if you made me bet, I might bet on this thing not cracking 200 million. It performed a little bit better internationally than it did domestically, that's for sure. But at this point, I don't think there's any way you can possibly imagine this movie getting to over $250 million globally. It's probably going to end up somewhere between 2 and 250. What a fucking embarrassment. Look at how it compares to this. It's not even close. Before this, the biggest drop was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for an MCU movie, and that dropped about 70%. The Marvels is closer to 80% than it is to 70, at 78% drop. A full 4% higher than the Morbius drop. Worse than The Flash. Worse than Dark Phoenix, The Suicide Squad, Hellboy 2, Quantumania, Hulk, Elektra. It is the worst of the worst. And you can see it's sitting at $161 million worldwide right now. It has a chance, based on how the numbers get adjusted, because we will get the final tally. And these things won't be perfectly tied. Right now, The Marvels and Thanksgiving, which released in fewer theaters, but beat it on a per theater average, are tied at $10.2 million. There's a chance that The Marvels went from the top of the box office to fourth in the box office when the final numbers come in. It's just crazy that when you look at the history of the MCU, all of these massive movies they've done, and some that are, didn't see quite that success, maybe didn't make $1 billion, whatever, everything in between. The Marvels is sitting at the lowest of the low. In 15 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Marvels is officially the worst opening weekend and the worst drop-off, which means not only did it have the least amount of people interested in the first place, but the drop-off was bigger than anything we've ever seen in history. An all-time failure. It does not get worse than this. We know everything is in chaos right now when it comes to Marvel. They're announcing all these changes and rewrites and people that are getting fired. Are they even going to do these movies? Are they going to replace this villain? Whatever. There's a reason that they're in panic mode over there, because no one can deny this. The mainstream has been in their pocket for a while and refused to admit that there was a problem with the MCU. That's impossible now. They're still going to make all the, they're going to blame it on this. They're going to blame it on the strike. They're going to blame it on toxic fans. But at the end of the day, regardless of what they blame it on, nothing will change reality. And the reality is The Marvels is the biggest box office flop in MCU history.